Uh, Hi, this is a video about archival storage of large-scale photographic works, which could apply maybe to drawings or other works on paper. It is a fairly specialized niche interest, but this is me trying to package the information I desperately wanted to find 15 to 20 years ago, and that I had to come by through trial and error and like spending a lot of money trying different methods. And some of the stuff has worked. So within the last couple years, I was on a panel with some other artists who make large-scale photographic works at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. The panel was presenting how we work for a conference of conservators, museum conservators from all over the US and I think some international. And conservators are the people at the museum or the institution who are caring for the artwork materially to make sure that it lasts for a long time. And these conservators were interested in what we could say about our process of making and storage and whatnot, so they could apply that to how they take care of similar works. And in the process, I saw some studio photos from some other artists, and they had I think they had built-in cubby systems, but it was basically this sort of like box system with like long rolls in them. And then I felt affirmed that like I had found something that other artists had also decided to do. So I feel like this is good advice to send along and to someone else. Well, I mean, if not good, at least decent advice, because some of my solutions are not going to be ideal for someone else. Each of us has to find the balance between like cost and ability and need. And a system of built-in cubbies, one per artwork, would be really nice. But I chose the boxes because they're cheaper, easier to move around in case you need to reconfigure or move studio. What's really important to me is getting the name of the work written on the back and then having that notated on the end of the roll and then having that on the outside of the end of the box or the cubby. And then all of that goes into an online database, which is a whole other topic. For storing prints smaller than 40 by 50 or 100 by 130 centimeters, really the best option is to just buy the acid-free boxes from a photo supply store or an art supply store. Always a great option for small and medium-sized work if you can get your hands on one as a flat file. I have these two 40-50 ones that I got secondhand, and here I'm showing some New York Craigslist, which is a little bit unfair because there's a great amount of material floating around this area. And another option for an odd size or large size is to have a custom acid-free box made at Talus.com, which is a family-run New York company, which also has a huge array of acid-free and bookbinding materials. So the first serious attempt I made at Archival Storage was buying these light blue acid-free tubes, which come in 6-inch diameter and are sold, at the time at least, in 10-foot lengths. Getting them cut and shipped became really complex. And as I was keeping all of the work, good and bad, it started to become like hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of paper. It became a bit cost intensive to always be buying these acid-free tubes. So then I moved to just using like regular tubes, which have, you know, things not good for the prints. So I would wrap the artwork in plastic and then put it in these tubes. But then I was having hundreds of tubes and it became crazy to restrain them. And also about the plastic. No plastic is actually archival. There's only a spectrum of more or less off-gassing because plastic are all petroleum-based products. So maybe I should go over the enemies list, like what we're protecting these photographs from. Air, dust, light, moisture, chemicals in gas form, physically being crushed. Defining what you're trying to protect the work from and dealing with a limited amount of space or a certain amount of money will define the material choices you make going forward. And now back to my riveting tale. Okay, so I moved to using these long boxes so they can stack and they don't get out of control like tubes do. And I started with a 12 by 12 inch box. And you can see here that the paper has sort of a memory from how it was shipped from the manufacturer to do a natural roll about 3 or 4 inches in diameter. But you can see how like too many of them stacked on top of each other start to cause the bottom ones to crush. I started with a 12 by 12. That was, so there would be 9 rolls, giving them each about 3 inches. and it was a lot of weight on the lower third. Also, at that size, the architecture of the cardboard box wasn't strong enough to support the weight of a stack of 3 or 4 boxes. So then I investigated options with 4 by 4 inch boxes, 6 by 6 inch boxes, and 8 by 8. And 8 by 8 seemed to be a nice negotiation between cost of boxes, amount of interior storage space, and an architecture that the boxes could withstand being stacked 3 or 4 high. Most artists use glassine to protect or to wrap drawings and paintings, but I was once advised by a museum conservator not to use glassine, at least on color C prints. What I've seen photographers use mostly throughout the years is this unbuffered tissue, which I also buy at Talus. Unbuffered tissue can be used when you don't want anything to touch the surface of a print or interleaved between prints in a storage box. Interleaving a box means that in between all the artworks that you have stacked up in a box, you have pieces of unbuffered tissue. So if it slides around, they don't scratch each other. Also, it's pretty life-changing when I found out about this pencil, the Creta Color Monolith 2B, which I can write on the back of a photograph data about the title or when it was made, and it won't bleed through the front, nor will it rub off on anything below it. And I'll put a link to this in the show notes, I think. I buy this at Dick Blick or Blick Art Supply, and not being sponsored, but just trying to give a practical list of places that I get these things. And if you're interested in patronizing smaller companies for archival supplies or shipping supplies, I have this list of recommendations that came from friends. I haven't tried all of these places, but this came from a couple Google groups that I am in about art community sharing resources. If that's the kind of thing that you're interested in, that can be really helpful. Okay, so this is a slightly embarrassing addendum, is I do also have some large works that can't be rolled for one reason or another. So I have made these Frankenstein folders out of the thicker foam core, which is somewhat acid-free, and then there are often subfolders inside with acid-free paper, and then there's artwork in there. And then when you have giant folders, where do you keep those? Well, I got lucky and had some leftover honeycomb aluminum from a project. So this table can span 10 feet unsupported, but even so, it's sagging a teeny bit, but it's working pretty well. Honeycomb aluminum is a lightweight, strong, amazing material, but like bonkers expensive, as you can see here from this website. Check it out for yourself, Flatiron Panels. And also, you can't stack these folders too high or they will compress too much weight down on the work. So this isn't like the best answer, but it was crucial for a few pieces. Well, I hope this is helpful. It's pretty much everything I wish I had known a long time ago, and maybe it's useful for someone and they can leapfrog over this and just focus on their work and make the world a better place.